What is up, everybody? Hope you're having a great weekend. Welcome back. Second draft episode of this weekend. The first draft episode got to about the 16-minute mark and then froze and didn't play the second half of the episode. So we're hoping that somehow I have fixed that and we can actually have a successful mock draft. We're brought to you as always by our friends over at Homage Apparel. I've actually got my hoodie on tonight. The Brownie the Elf stiff arm hoodie, soft, comfortable, best merch in the business. I'll put a link down in the description down below. I'm your host for today's festivities, Jacob, joined by the very dapper and handsome Mr. Randy Gurzi from Dawg Pound Daily. How you doing, man?
I'm good, man. Thanks for having me. And I could second that on the homage. I've got the same hoodie, but I got the orange
Okay.
brownie stiff arm. So I've got a whole collection of their stuff. Not wearing it today. Going with the Ted Lasso today, but you can't go wrong with the gear.
My dad, interestingly enough, I didn't know would be a Ted Lasso fan because he's not really big on like comedies. Like he just doesn't do comedies. But I was talking to him today and he was like, "Hey, you ever watch that Ted Lasso? That shit's funny as hell." And I was like, "Oh, okay, now it's got my dad's stamp of approval. I gotta go check that stuff out."
Yeah, it's definitely worth it.
Is it what season 3 now? Just dropped, I think.
Yeah. Yep.
Great. All right, man, this is our 7th video mock draft, and for the first time, I'm doing this a double mock format because I've been doing these by myself. So you and I have gone back and forth with a bunch of draft stuff via text and all kinds of. We just had a great conversation about Tank Dell. That's for another.
Wide receiver 1.
Wide receiver 1, baby. We'll have that conversation another time, maybe potentially. But we're both going to get you with a full 7-round mock draft here. So let's get this thing rolling, man. I will send it to you for your first pick.
All right. Like, as you said, we've talked back and forth a lot, so I know this one probably didn't shock you at all. I used the PFF mock simulator, PFN, Pro Football Network mock simulator. Keanu Benton was there. I don't know if he's really going to be there at pick 74. If he is, I mean, sometimes I get shocked. Teams really undervalue the kind of the big nose tackle guys, so maybe he is there. If he is, I think that the Browns need to sprint to the podium, put his name down there because he fills a need. He would be a day one starter in my opinion, right next to Dalvin Tomlinson. He's not as big, 6'4", 309 pounds. Tomlinson's about 320, but Tomlinson actually really performed really well in the 3 tech position for Minnesota for the last 2 years. So putting Benton next to him as the nose tackle would really solidify that defense. Another thing with Tomlinson is he only played, I think it was 55% of the snaps with Minnesota. So you can keep that rotation going. Even if you don't have the two of them out there playing together all the time. Keeping that solid run stuffer out there, I think, is exactly what this defense missed last year. And not only what he can do as far as stuffing the run, but I think that he is huge and that he can eat up the blocks. You got those athletic linebackers that really were having to take on guards and tackles last year, which is just they can't do that at 220, 225 pounds. So you get somebody like Benton out there that can eat up the blocks. JOK would be able to thrive and start making some more plays.
Keanu Benton's one of my favorite players in this draft. The trade of Elijah Moore, and you and I are on the same page with Elijah Moore. That was absolutely an amazing move. But when that happened, it really felt like we lost Benton. But I'll say this. You say, I don't know if he's going to be there at 74. That's also something I thought about Travis Jones last year in that class. And like you said, they undervalued that kind of role, and Jones fell much further than I thought because – when they traded back, they still had a crack at him when they took Mark Henderson.
And that's a perfect example because I felt the same way. I felt like that they should have taken Travis Jones. They dropped into the 3rd round. And I remember I was still wanting Travis Jones. I was a little upset when they took Martin Emerson because of it, but Emerson ended up being a really good player. So you never know. I mean, like I said, if Benton's there, you got to get up to that podium right away and put his name down. I think that's just an easy pick.
It feels like it, man. It just absolutely feels like it's just no brainer there if he's there. And the pass rush upside too, man. You saw on the numbers that I put up on the screen, 13.5% pass rush win rate at 310 pounds. He's got this little like swim move he'll throw out there a little bit here and there and just kind of like do-si-do and shoot a gap. And you're like, shouldn't be able to do that.
And if you notice last year, as good as Myles Garrett is, he still had 16 sacks, tied his career high. There were several times where he could get in there. he can get the pressure off the edge, and the quarterback could just step up in the pocket. Nobody was pushing that pocket. The quarterback can even take off and run with it. Even if Benton's not recording sacks, but he's keeping that from happening, that's another huge win.
And that's something that Benton and Tomlinson both do at a really high rate that doesn't show up in the stat sheet, and so you're just not able to see that in a traditional view. All right, I went crazy here, man, and I know that you're okay with it, but I don't know that a lot of the viewers are going to be okay with what I'm about to do, and that is I am trading up to pick 55 in the second round. I'm giving up. Obviously pick 74, but I'm going to give up pick 111 and pick 140 in the fourth and the fifth round. And I am going after, I think, a dynamic playmaker in the front seven, Trenton Simpson, the linebacker from Clemson. And I kind of compared him to a JOK-esque player at Mike linebacker. Now, some people, I talked with Kyle Lindemann earlier this week, and he was talking about just some concerns with him being a bit of a tweener, not really sure where he plays. And you mentioned he had played some safety at Clemson as well. When he first gets down there, he kind of puts on some size. And this is an instinctual player. Like, that is the thing that jumps off his tape to me, is Simpson understands what's happening in front of him and where he needs to go. And he has the athleticism and speed. He's just got great range, sideline to sideline. He's a pretty good coverage linebacker, especially on tight ends if they're the less athletic tight ends. Not that he can't. He's a good athlete, so it's not like he can't do it against the athletic ones as well. Boy, is this an explosive hitter. Like, I'm talking about, you want somebody that's, a quote-unquote dog that's going to smack somebody in the mouth. I think that's Trenton Simpson, and I think you put two really nice athletic linebackers like Simpson and JOK back there, and you keep them clean with improved defensive line play, I think you can see a lot of fireworks from that defensive, front seven this year.
You touched on the fact that people were saying he's kind of a tweener. You don't really know where he's going to play. I think that's more of a traditionalist thing. I think a lot of people kind of get beholden to, this guy's this size, so he fits here, or he does this, doesn't do this, so he can't, work like. Okoronkwo. I'm sure I say his name wrong, and every time I don't know.
No, it's Okoronkwo. You're good.
Oh, there we go. And you got a guy like him he's not the biggest defensive end. He was, more of a 3-4 outside linebacker. But in today's defenses, they're usually more multiple than what we're used to seeing. So a guy like that can come up and play defensive end in the Browns system. We saw Olivier Vernon come and play in the Browns system when he was traditionally a 3-4 outside linebacker. And then it's the same kind of thing with the linebackers like a JOK. He was in that same mold. They didn't know if he was a safety, if he was a linebacker. Well, same thing with Trenton Simpson, and I think that in today's pass-happy NFL, tweener linebackers are where it's at. You have to have them. They're much more valuable than the traditional thumpers, and that's why you see them having more success in the NFL, making around for. You look at Noah Sewell. He was a huge name. He's a 250-pound linebacker. He was a huge name in the draft. Now all of a sudden nobody talks about him because in today's NFL, you need that guy that can play some coverage and has that athleticism.
Yeah, perfectly said. I don't know, man. I don't like the linebacker class after him, really. I mean, I like Dorian Williams quite a bit and Ivan Pace, but that's it.
I feel like they're going to get overdrafted because they're good for this class. So I feel like they're going to get drafted a lot higher than they should.
Yeah. And we see it every year. We see it every year with players like this. I really like your third round pick here, so I will step out of the way and I will give you the floor for your next pick.
All right, so this kind of like you talked about it not being your pick or your move up not really being popular. I have a couple of them in here that I think are going to be incredibly popular, but I think would be brilliant moves. This one here, Parker Washington, one of my favorite players in the entire draft. Even when we had a second round pick still, I was sitting there considering him. But I think some of the other receivers were able to kind of separate themselves from him just because he didn't do much at the combine, coming off of an injury. So in the end, I think that could actually help go into the Browns' favor. Guy is built like a running back. He plays like a running back once he has the ball in his hand. He's a slot receiver. I see you got it right there. 215 slots and snaps in the slot. Sorry, words are hard. I know like David Bell, people talk about David Bell playing in the slot. I don't think David Bell is as excellent in the slot as people just assume he would be. He's good wherever. He
Yeah.
can play on the boundary. So I even think adding Parker Washington doesn't hurt him long term. And I still think you need that receiver depth. Yes, I really like Peoples Jones. I love Amari Cooper. I love Elijah Moore. David Bell, I'm not ready to give up on him. He was a third round pick. I think he was fine as a third round pick. I think people just had too high of expectations for him. But Donovan Peoples-Jones is in the final year of his contract. Elijah Moore's only got 2 years on his contract. It's not time to just sit there and stand pat at wide receiver. So I think if you get somebody like a Parker Washington that's sitting there at pick 98, you got to pull the trigger. He's a guy that can play in the slot, breaks tons of tackles after the catch. Just a dynamic player. And you put there, he's good with the contested ball. He's good against man coverage. I just think he has so much to offer and is kind of what that offense, the only thing they're really lacking at receiver right now.
Yeah, they're looking. It's this. I don't know if it's a taboo word. You're just looking for dynamic playmakers, and you're never going to hear me complain about more playmakers in the passing game. Like, I mean, he plays in the slot. Like David Bell didn't play much in the slot in college. We just, you said, we just assumed that that's what the Browns needed, so they were going to force him into that spot. And even with Elijah Moore, who played quite a bit of slot snaps this year, he's better out wide. So you just need, and even then, you need a natural backup at the position.
Yeah, and right now their best slot receiver is Amari Cooper. He played a lot of it with Dallas, and he was fantastic in the slot. So I never understood where to plug David Bell in there. That wasn't his best fit. But I still think Cooper, you can move him around everywhere. He's great wherever you put him. But Washington, like you said, you can never have too many of these guys. We've already seen Michael Woods go down with an Achilles injury, and that's not even he was just working out with Deshaun Watson. So, we can't just sit there and go, oh, well, we've got receivers we like, so we're not going to add anymore. And what happens the first time one of them's injured? You've got to have that depth. You've got to have that next guy ready to go. And the Browns did an excellent job this offseason, in my opinion, of setting themselves up in the draft that they can go out there and just get whatever dynamic player, whoever's the top of their board. No matter what the position is, which is what you want in the draft. So competition's a great thing. You can never have too much. And if you draft Parker Washington and he can't see the field, then that's fine, because that just means everyone else is doing their job as well as they can. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like they got lucky last year injury-wise at the position, because nobody really got injured last year, but
that wasn't the case the year before.
Well,
the year before, we saw how quickly that depth can get depleted.
Yeah. Okay, so my pick 98 is actually your pick 114. So I'll go first, and then I'll give you your pick 111. And then I don't have 111, so I'll have you double down with your 124 when we get there. But I'll start with the guy that we share, in Jamie Robinson, the safety from FSU, down in Florida State. I mean, I got it on the screen: 352 snaps as a deep safety, 252 in the box, and 167 in the slot. You need depth at all three of those. And you're able to potentially get a guy like Jamie Robinson that can do all of that. He gets an 80.1 overall grade from PFF, and interestingly enough, also an 80.1 in run defense. Forced incompletion percentage was 16%, which is pretty good, talking about what he did at FSU. I think he plays better in the box. I think, yes, he played a majority of snaps back deep, but I think the closer to the line of scrimmage he is, because he's kind of a big physical player, I think a little bit further in the box and that sort of thing. And you can even consider the slot the box, I guess. It's just where at in the box that you're actually lined up. And I think he's a tremendous tackler. I think he's got great instincts, and he doesn't miss many tackles, and he doesn't have elite straight line speed, but I do think he has a lot of good short in bursts, and he can play with those quicker athletic guys that are trying to make, like Cooper Kupp. He's not a straight line speed guy, but he's got a lot of that speed and athleticism and burst off the line. And I think Jamie Robinson has that as well in terms of it. I'm not having Jamie Robinson cover Tyreek Hill deep, from the slot or anything like that, because that's where you might see some deficiencies in his game. But I just think he's a really smart player, really good football IQ, doesn't miss tackles when he gets that opportunity, and a defensive back, especially in the slot, that can actually make an impact on the run defense, I think is more important than some people would think.
Yeah, and I think you kind of hit the nail on the head talking about how much he can do. He may not be the guy that you want starting at free safety all the time, but you can still only dress 46 players on game day. So even with 53 up to 55 guys with some of those rules, you only have a certain amount you can bring onto the field during the game day. So those reserves, you want to know, hey, I can plug them in here, or I can plug them in here. He can play special teams. He can do whatever. But I agree with you. I think he's better closer to the line of scrimmage, and he could really take over that role that Ronnie Harrison had, where he kind of plays that hybrid role, but then can also go and step back into one of the safety spots if necessary. So that's why I went with him. He's another one that, pick 111. It might be a little bit too late. He might be, pick 98 might be closer to where he goes. I just think he's a perfect fit. Safety is not my favorite. It's not my favorite class this year. There's not a whole lot of safeties, but he's one of the few ones that I really think could have a good career.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that comes with he's not just a safety.
Right.
Like I love Jartavius Martin quite a bit from Illinois, and he's the same thing. He actually is more of a nickel corner than a deep safety, though he played significant deep safety snaps. And it's like I don't like him that much as a safety necessarily, because this safety class is poop. Except for some of these versatile guys that play safety and something else. I think they're kind of the exceptions to the rule in that term. So we'll continue right along, man. You're back on the clock. Round 4, pick 126.
And this is one of my favorite players in the draft. Not too long ago, I felt like he was going to be a 6th or 7th round pick, but then Zach Kuntz goes into the NFL scouting combine and basically leaped out of the stadium.
Yeah.
He jumped 40 inches, which is absolutely insane for a guy that's 6'7", just a little over 6'7", actually, and 255 pounds.
Yeah.
4.55 40-yard dash. He basically was in every athletic testing, and he was number 1 or 2, or whether he was alone in first or tied for second. But for out of all tight ends, he was just right there, number 1 or number 2, every athletic testing. The guy's just an athletic freak, and he ran the routes and everything really well. Also at the combine, I think he just you have to trust the film, I believe, above the combine. But when somebody comes in like that and you've seen them, you didn't know what to expect because he played at Old Dominion. He was playing against lesser talent, but then he goes out there and he's with other guys that are going to be drafted, and he just outshines them, which is hard to do in this class because tight end is one of the positions that's loaded in this class. So, I mean, I think he did wonders for himself. I see him being a late round 3, round 4 pick. And he's a guy that I think would be excellent in Cleveland. He could be that 3rd tight end. He probably would push Harrison Bryant out of a job. But you also don't need him right away, and that's the beautiful thing for him. It would be great to go to Cleveland. He's not going to be forced onto the field right away. He can kind of play behind Njoku and Jordan Akins, get him developed a little bit, and I think he could end up being one of the top in this class if you give him that time.
Just look at him.
Yeah. The guy's a freak.
That dude ran a 4.44 and he had a 40-inch vert. That dude are you kidding me? Like, I'm with you, man. Like a month ago or so, like I was looking at him we had seen some of the athletic stuff, but then the actual combine comes up, and he was a 6th, 7th round pick where you're like, hey, this dude played at Penn State before going to Old Dominion. He goes to Old Dominion, catches 13 balls. I think he only had 25 targets too. So it's not like he had a bad, catch rate and that sort of thing. And you're just like, you go in and watch the film, you're like, oh, this is a pretty good guy. He's got long arms, good long legs. He could probably figure out how to block. And then he goes and tests just a extremely freak athlete, and you're just like, yeah, I don't care. That is such an elite level of athlete. I don't care about the production. I just
no. And I think he's, like I said, he's a guy that you really wouldn't even need to use him as a rookie. I think you could put him out there and he could still produce if he needs to. But I think that for him going somewhere like Cleveland would also just be excellent for him to work with two veteran tight ends, to work with a good offensive minded head coach who likes to utilize tight ends in the passing game. I just think that he could be, he could be a separator at that position. He could be a real matchup nightmare for linebackers and for safeties. So I think that the needle is pointing very high for him.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to go with one. I'm not sure what people are going to think about this, but as I go to round 4, pick 126, I got Juice Scruggs, man, the center from Penn State. This season he plays as their center. He was mainly their right guard in 2021. He did play like 100 snaps at center in 2021, but he played like 500 or 600 snaps as a right guard. You don't really know what's going on behind Ethan Posick this year. I love Nick Harris. I was really excited about Nick Harris, but he has that jump, he jumps the way he plays in pass pro. He does this little jump hop on a surgically repaired knee. There's some concerns I have in him being the backup and even being ready for week 1 to be the backup. But I'm also not sure who the right guard is past 2023. We don't know what's going to go on with Wyatt Teller's play has kind of gone down. He's now having reoccurring injuries all of the last 3 seasons. He's missed time. And he's not a guy that when he plays through injury that plays through it at a high level. He's not JC Treader. And that's not a knock on Wyatt Teller. I'm not I stubbed my toe and I'm not performing.
Right.
Anyway,
I'm done for the week.
I am done. Forget it. Not happening. But it's just reality. JC Treader, Joe Thomas, they were always hurt and they could play. It's just not what Wyatt Teller does. So you need to start. Andrew Berry always drafts things early. Always early. He's always early. Listen, he let up 1 sack last year, man. 3 in college. He was really only a 2-year starter, but 3 sacks in college with a 73.6 pass blocking grade last year. He's got a good size and arms. He needs refinement with his technique because he has the tools, but thank God he has somebody that can give him refinement with technique in Cleveland. And I'm that's going to be fine. Again, Andrew Berry, he loves the versatile players. This guy could be your future at right guard. He could step in if you need something at center now. And you're looking at a player that I think's got all these measurables, and he's in the high 60s in terms of run blocking grade. But this is a team now, I think, focused on throwing the ball and playing from the shotgun, and Scruggs has a lot of experience doing that.
Yeah, and that's not to dump on Teller, but that was one of the reasons I had 2 reasons I wasn't sold on his extension. One was the durability concerns that you talked about. He had issues. I think he had missed 5 games the first year that he was in Cleveland, something like that. So I was a little concerned about that. But more than anything, it was the fact that he doesn't seem like he's excellent in pass protection. He's a mauler in the run game. He'll bowl over defensive linemen, linebackers. He'll clear lanes in the run game. But Cleveland seems to be moving. They don't seem to be moving. They are moving toward a much more pass happy, shotgun based offense. So I didn't understand the extension there. Not that he wasn't worth it. It's just that they seem to be moving in a different direction. Scruggs, like you said, he's a guy that offers versatility. So if you're going to have backups, again, you want guys that can fill in multiple positions. Another thing that you were kind of touching on, you don't know what's going on with the backup center position. Well, we also don't really know a whole lot about that backup guards. They don't have very good backup guards right now. So I think getting a guy like that would be an excellent pick. I like Scruggs a lot. As you know, I do have a guard or a center, I guess I should say, coming up in a bit. I think I actually play guard. Anyway, I don't want to – we'll wait on that. But I agree with you. I think you got to get a guy that's a little bit versatile like that can fill in a couple positions on the bench. And you're looking down the road, perhaps, as a starting right guard in a couple of years.
All right, so just a fair warning, your next pick, I am now seeing 2 typos that is in the what I'm about to stick on the screen. Well, actually, you know what? I can probably fix that. Hold on. Let's do this. This is what I want to say about your next pick. I did just do with Casey Kinnaman on Friday and a video, and this part wasn't the part that got froze up and you don't get to watch. If you watch it on YouTube, you actually watch this part. This guy is my number one. If I had a number one running back target for the Browns in the draft, it's this guy you're about to take at pick 140. And I will say that I did not pick a running back in my mock because when I lost those 2 picks to go up, running back and tight end were kind of the ones that fell off. But if I was a betting man, and I am, I would put money on them taking a running back this class because I think it's just absolutely stacked. So I will let you talk about one of my favorite guys in this player in this draft class at pick 140.
Yeah, it's Ty J. Spears from Tulane. And I'm going to, before jumping into him, I'm going to say I agree with you 100%. I think that they're taking a running back. And I've gotten a lot of grief for that. People telling me that, the Browns are loaded at running back. No, they're really not. They
have 2.
They have Nick Chubb and they have Jerome Ford.
Yeah.
Demetric Felton's there, but he played more receiver than running back. So they don't have running backs. You got, John Kelly, I believe, is still on the roster, but I don't even know if he's ever played in an NFL game. He may have actually played in a regular season game, but I'm not sure. So they don't have running backs. They have a running back. Jerome Ford could be very good, but we don't know yet. So rather than just going out there and turning it over to a guy with only 8 carries, definitely think that they're going to go out there. They're going to get somebody. This is, like you said, this is a loaded class. The only reason I think someone like Spears could be available is because of the fact that it's so loaded. But he, like you said, he's a perfect fit with this team. He's a quick, decisive runner. He's not necessarily a home run hitter. He's not going to be a guy that, breaking off the 80-yard touchdowns, but he can do a lot of the things that you got from Kareem Hunt as far as going out there, breaking some tackles, kind of hitting the hole hard. He's just a little over 200 pounds, so he's not going to be a featured back, but he's definitely a great change of pace back that can come out there, give you a little bit of energy, play a little bit, and maybe in the the second half of the games to rest Chubb for that fourth quarter spurt. But I absolutely love the guy. I turn on his highlights from the Senior Bowl workouts, and what really stood out to me is just that route running.
Yes,
he's juking linebackers out of their shoes. So again, more of a pass happy offense. You can get a running back out there that can that can just get him wide open space out there. I think you just got to take a guy like that.
Yeah, the 63 forced missed tackles is a fun stat. Like over 1,000 yards after contact.
Yeah, it's insane. And it's like I said, he's going to break those tackles, but he's not going to be a guy that continues to take off. He's not a burner, but he's a guy, again, he kind of reminds me a little of Kareem Hunt with that, where it's just the play's not ever over with him. Just because he got hit doesn't mean the play's over. He can keep on bowling people over, keep going, get a couple extra yards. And we saw with Kareem Hunt during 2020 just how electric that could be when you already have a running back like Nick Chubb that's just tough on his own to deal with, and then he goes and sits down, and the next guy that comes in has all this incredible energy, and it's just as hard to tackle. That can be really hard to deal with.
It just makes me really have a lot of fun. I'll let you go again, just because this was the last pick that I didn't have for my trade up. So we will move. Let me get my cursor over here. There we go. Oh, look at that! I love the uniform.
Yeah, we were talking about that before the show. Their uniforms, like, they make me always want to put like an extra round grade on this person. Like, oh, he's a 5th round pick, and then I see the uniform, like, nah, he's a 4th rounder. The Oregon uniforms are undefeated. But I got DJ Johnson here. He moved around a bit with Oregon. He actually started out on defense, moved to tight end, went back to defense, was playing in what we were talking about earlier, the stand-up pass rusher. But he's got plenty of size. I want to say he's about 260 pounds. I don't have that number right in front of me, but I think, he's got decent size. He ran a 4.49 in the 40-yard dash. So he's incredibly explosive. Once he gets past the guy, he's also very raw. Like I said, he bounced from position to position. So I think he's not somebody that you're going to pick up and start him right away. But I think he would be excellent in a rotation, working him with, behind Garrett and Okoronkwo, working him with Alex Wright, Isaiah Thomas. I think Wright can kind of be that guy who comes in and still gives good run defense off of the edge, setting the edge there. But on third downs, you put this guy out here with that 4.49 speed, and I think he could end up causing some problems for offensive tackles.
270 was
270. Okay.
Yeah. So, yeah. Tight end, defensive end. That was my favorite thing because I was looking I haven't really watched any of his tape, but when you gave me his name, I was like, I'll just check this guy out, and put it up. And I was like, oh, he also played that. Okay. Like, so he really understands some of the intricacies of playing offense because he's playing offense at a high level. And it's like, that's a lot of fun. This is where I get into the part where I start going after guys that you've never heard of.
Yeah.
So my pick 142 is Viliami
Fehoko.
Viliami Fehoko?
Yeah, I've heard of. He's got family in the NFL.
Oh, okay. All right.
Brendan Fehoko is defensive lineman on the Chargers, and then Semi Fehoko, I believe their cousins, plays for Dallas Cowboys, a wide receiver. So
okay.
So they've got some NFL bloodlines going there in that family.
I do. And here's another guy's inside outside at 6'4", 276. Played primarily as the outside. He did. He's an edge rusher, but I mean, you got somebody that's 276 that plays with great strength and long arms. He can go inside, outside. 50 quarterback hurries, not 50 quarterback pressures, 50 quarterback hurries to mix with his 12 sacks in 2022. He did play at San Jose State, but I said this when I was talking to Casey about running backs on Friday. I said, if you're going to play at a small school, I need you to dominate at the small school. Mm-hmm. And then that's what he did. 50 quarterback hurries, 12 sacks in 2022, 21.5 pass rush win rate, and PFF gave him a 90.2 pass rush grade. His run defense was an 87.4 grade with a 10.9% run stop rate. You know what he reminds me a lot of in terms of just the tools that he has of Alex Wright. I think he's more refined than Alex Wright was coming out of UAB, but like in terms of long arms, strong, has a good athletic profile, can set the run in the edge, set the edge in the run. I was like, that is not what you're supposed to say. He can set the edge in the run. He can get after the quarterback. He can switch from strength to power. I think he's more of a power guy than he is versus in terms of speed. But I mean, you're looking at a guy that's got 12 sacks this year, wins at 21%. In terms of situational pass rusher, while he develops his, the technique and all that stuff, he signed me up for a dude that's got those kind of numbers, and that's where I'm at with him.
Yeah, and I was just double checking it. His Braden Fehoko actually just signed with the Steelers, so we'll be seeing him a little bit. But yeah, everything you said is spot on with this guy. I love that the 90.2 pass rush grade, but then you also look at the run defense grade is right up there too. And you're spot on with saying if you're going to come from a small school, you better be dominant. And he was, he's completely unblockable up against, the lesser talent, but I like him a lot as well. I think that, defensive end is definitely a position they have to get in this draft. I don't think I wouldn't mind if they got one early, but I don't think they have to get one early, but they've got to get a guy that they know they can put on the field and trust to at least, not be terrible. And I think you can get that right here. They're just, they're not real deep there yet. I like their top 2-3 guys, but they got to get a little bit more, depth. And I think he definitely accomplishes that.
Just get on the field and not be terrible. Please put that on a shirt.
Yeah.
That's all.
Because we've had the guys that have gone out there and been terrible. We don't want that anymore. Like
we saw a lot of that last year.
Yeah, we definitely did. Like, let's not do that again.
We'll move on to the 6th round. Your pick 190.
All right. Well, we were talking earlier about linebackers and kind of being tweeners. Well, that's what we got here with Jalen Graham from Purdue. He kind of played more of that hybrid role where you weren't really sure if he's a linebacker, if he's a safety. I think they called it like a star defender or something on their defense. It was they had some weird name for what he played. But he really is about 220 pounder, plays really well in zone coverage. He can kind of run with the tight ends, stick with the running backs out of the backfield. And I think, again, you got this today's NFL where it's really pass happy, you got to get that guy that can do that coverage, that can play that. Again, we were talking earlier, the linebacker class isn't exactly deep. So rather than trying to reach for somebody early, I went for a guy that later that I felt like, you kind of had some of those traits that fit well in this defense that they might be able to kind of coach them up a little bit and hopefully get something out of them.
Yeah. I mean, like you said, you get into this situation late and you're starting to take some players that you can bet on something. And I think you can bet on a dude with a high motor and high football IQ with Graham. And not elite traits. Obviously, you're in the 6th round, but
right.
You just want to find something to bet on, and he has some tools to bet on. And yeah. What else you want?
There you go.
What else you want? Listen, I am doubling down on 6th round Michigan wide receivers. Give me Ronnie Bell at pick 190 if he's still on the board. And this is where it gets a little bit interesting because Ronnie Bell, he's not a flashy wide receiver. At 213 snaps out wide, 150 slot snaps. Okay. Well, all right. That checks two boxes off there right there. Listen, 62 catches, 892, 4 touchdowns, 14.4 yards a catch this year in a run-first offense, a 77 overall grade in 2022. He actually was better in 2021 with the 87.6. Great route runner. I think that's Ronnie Bell's calling card. And I hate doing player comps. I really hate player comps. But there's Amari Cooper in his game, his overall game. He's not Amari Cooper. Please don't come at me because you think I'm saying that Ronnie Bell in the 6th round is Amari Cooper. I'm just saying he understands, like Amari, how to win and create separation as a quick route runner with good feet and enough speed and quickness to create separation. He's a technician in that sense, but he doesn't. Amari's got way more athleticism than he does. I'm just saying if he wants to be successful at the NFL, he needs to learn some things from the way Amari attacks offenses or defenses in terms of creating separation. And so you could be looking at a guy down the line that could take kind of of either Cooper or DPJ's roles. I think he can be one of those guys if you let one of those guys walk in the future. You're probably not going to play him a ton this year, but if he was forced into action as your 3rd or 4th wide receiver, I think I feel good enough about the fact that he can win outside and inside. And again, just try to figure out something you can bet on in day 3. And I like some of the production and then the overall numbers from Ronnie Bell.
Yeah, it goes right back to the thing we keep talking about, versatility. Mm-hmm. Without a 1st or 2nd round pick, almost every pick that they're going to be looking at is going to be what roles can this guy fill, and if it's multiple roles, then I think that's somebody that you really got to kick the tires on. I like Ronnie Bell also. Speed can definitely be overrated at wide receiver. Yeah. I think it's important to have it. I think you have to have that guy that backs the secondary off a little bit. We saw that in 21 when there just wasn't anybody that could threaten the defense. There were just 8, 9 guys in the box constantly because they weren't worried about it. So as long as you have that guy that can do that, and I think Cleveland has some of that now, especially now that they got Elijah Moore. He can do it. I know Cooper, DPJ can do it. But I think that me personally, I still do. I want to get it. I always like to get speed, but it's not a necessity. And I think you're right with his technical route running. It could be great, especially if you're going to play somebody in the slot. They have to really be that technician in the slot, be where they're supposed to be. And he's definitely a guy that does that.
I mean, you talk about speed being overrated. The best slot receiver in football, maybe not last year because last year was weird, but 2 years ago was Cooper Kupp. Mm-hmm. What's his 40 time? And he was always open.
Right. Yeah. And again, like I said, you've got to have somebody that backs the safeties off. Yeah. But that's not the only thing. I mean, look at Anthony Schwartz. Just because you can run fast doesn't mean that you're going to get it done. So I don't knock that.
Through this episode without bringing that up.
Yeah, well, it's hard not to bring up bring up an elite wide receiver like that. But yeah, sorry. Anyway, that's okay. route running is what's most important. I mean, like you talked about Amari Cooper. Amari Cooper ran in the 4.4s.
Yeah.
He ran well, but he wasn't an incredible burner. But that guy's constantly wide open. He can get the deep ball because of the fact that he can just get wide open like that. So he had several 200-yard games when he was with the Cowboys. So this is a guy that's a guy that does that, and he doesn't have the track star speed. So
he just puts defensive backs in hell all day long.
Yeah.
All right, man, you're on the board. Your final pick here,
Final pick.
round 7.
I went with Jovan Gwynn from South Carolina. He, like I had mentioned earlier, a little bit of versatility. He didn't play center at Carolina, but he's been working at center.
14 snaps. He played 14 snaps.
14 snaps. Okay, I apologize.
I just put it on there because I knew you would bring up the versatility.
There we go. Now I do know that he's been working at it a lot because the fact that he weighs only 297 pounds. So, and he also has shorter arms for an offensive lineman. So they want to see him play center. They don't really see him as a fit at guard going forward. But we've heard that about players before, and they've been able to play guard. Nick Harris filled in a guard a little bit during his rookie season. And, he wasn't bad there. So I like when a guy can kind of do both. And like you'd mentioned, you've got a great coach, Bill Callahan. So I think he can coach him up a bit. I think Gwynn held his own in the SEC, which is, not an easy thing to do. As you put right there, you allowed only 2 sacks in 2022. That's going up against some of the best. So I get it that he's only 297 pounds, but if he was 300 pounds even, would you be thinking any different? So I think it's just that you see that number and you just kind of assume he's not going to be big enough. But I think you get him with Bill Callahan and you might be able to have a decent backup guard this late.
Yeah. I mean, you're looking at a guy that only lets up a couple of sacks in the SEC. I have room for that on my roster. I don't know. It's like, well, I'm going to stick with the big man, and I'm going to go with a defensive tackle. My defensive tackle is not coming until the 7th round. I got Broderick Martin from Western Kentucky, 6'5", 330 pounds. And yet he had a 9.4 pass rush win rate in 2022 with a 77.5 pass rush grade. This dude understands how to anchor. Like, he's not Andrew Billings where he's like 335 pounds and he's on like roller skates. He frustrates me because of his pad level. Like, that's why you're looking at this guy in the 7th round, is because like he'll like come off the snap and like go straight up. And I'm like, oh, like, you're 6'5", I can't have you stand straight up. And so there's some things there that he needs to work on just a little bit with the refinement, but he's got good hands. He's got long arms. He's got the size. He's got the build. If he needs to go out there on some early downs to stuff some run snaps, he can do that. And he can surprise you with some athleticism as a pass rusher. And I'm always impressed. If I can see a 300+ pound man like just do like a little swim move or shoot a gap or something like that, I'm like, you know what, you've got something there. And I think this is another guy that comes from a smaller school. He wasn't completely dominant at that small school, and that's what drops him all the way to potentially the 7th round. But I'm looking for bodies that just can't get shoved around late in the draft in terms of at defensive tackle, and I think you can get that with Broderick Martin.
Yeah, I agree with you on him as well. I think you're right, he wasn't dominant at Western Kentucky, but when you're in the final rounds, especially in the 7th round, you're never going to find, a perfect player.
Yeah.
There's only one Brock Purdy. So, only one perfect 7th round pick. So, outside of him, you're looking for somebody that's got something that you can work with. That, hey, this guy's got something that's coachable, or hey, he's got these traits, but if we can fix this one thing, and that's really what you're talking about with him. He's got the size, he's got the power, but if you can work on him getting that pad level and understanding the leverage and how to win that way, you could end up unlocking somebody that might be a real good run stuffer. I always love it when people like dispel, or just, talk about, oh, this tackle's not good because he only plays on early downs. He's only a 2-down player. It's like, well, no, if you don't ever get a 3rd down, he's going to be a 20-down player because you're just, like we saw against Washington, you're going to have a 20-play drive where they're just running right up the gut on you. So I hate when people say that because it's the dumbest thing ever. Yeah, I don't care if he's a 2-down player. Get me to 3rd down, get off the field, and let the pass rushers get after the guy. So I'm all about the 330 pounders. Get out there, shut the run down, and let the other guys do their job. And I think if you get him to fix that pad level, you've got somebody that he could develop into a starter at nose tackle.
Yeah, I mean, he's already shown enough in terms of his pass rush that suggest he can be a pass rusher. Like he's shown you some things at Western Kentucky, and it was just, well, dude, it's late on a Saturday night. You've been fantastic. I always appreciate when you jump on here with me real quick. For the people that don't know, please let them know where they can find all your awesome stuff.
All right. You can find me all over the place now. Dawg Pound Daily is where you'll see the majority of my writing. I also do cover the Dallas Cowboys on the Landry Hat. I just recently started covering the New Orleans Saints on Who Dat Dish, so you can catch me on there. And also follow me at rgurzi81 on Twitter as well. If you like snarky comments and stupid memes, which is my specialty.
Who doesn't?
If you don't, then I don't want to know you.
Exactly. I got a very interesting piece of random information to tell you. The listeners have heard me say this already, but Chef Boyardee is buried in Ohio.
Oh, I did not know that. That is,
yeah.
Those are the kind of random facts I usually do know. So I'm glad you informed me of this.
Now you can use that with all of your friends.
I will. I'm gonna do trivia tomorrow for my poor family.
Yeah, guys, please hit that subscribe button. Give us a thumbs up. We appreciate all of you for stopping by. We made YouTube partner 2 weeks ago. You guys are amazing. We love every single one of you, except for the people that are really mean to me in the comments that make me cry. And I will see you guys on Tuesday. OBR's cap cap expert Jack Duffin will join Nick and I on Tuesday's show. So until next time, go Browns. Yeah, where's that?